Just wanted to start off by saying we've been working with the Seven Bridges Foundation for about 5 years, and I never get tired of coming here. And I have to say that when it's overwhelming for my artists to see their work in this collection, it's quite an overwhelming experience for them. It's like a kind of a spiritual experience, I think, for some of them. Actually, I don't know if you had a chance to see Cheryl's work downstairs, but she literally broke out in tears when she saw her work here. So it's really a very special place and a privilege to work with this collection. Anyway, meanwhile, when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, my first inclination was to somehow demystify the art world. And when I got the whole thing done and written, and I read it to my friend Wendy, I was even more mystified by what I was going to say. So that sort of didn't work out. So I just thought I'd talk a little about what I do know, which is my gallery, which is located in New York on 57th Street. We've been in business for 16 years, and we exhibit realism and photorealist painting, primarily. We have a program called First Look where we try to introduce young artists to New York, in some cases to America, but primarily that's what we show. This is an example of one of our solo exhibitions. Here's another view of Roberto Bernardi's work. But one of the most often asked questions I get is, how did you become an art dealer? I guess I really had to think about what were my influences when I opened the gallery in the 1980s. And first of all, I went to the School of Visual Arts, and I graduated in 1982, but I studied graphic design and advertising. And just, if you remember this ad from the 80s, it's probably one of the most memorable ads of Brooke Shields and her Calvin Klein jeans. And this is like what, in advertising, this is what we aspire to, like to work with Richard Avedon and have these celebrities. And so this was one influence. Another influence was my father. He was a painter. In the 50s, he and some other artists opened their own gallery. My dad studied with Hans Hofmann. This is a Hans Hofmann painting, and he had his own school and his own thoughts and theories about painting. And this abstract painting like this was something brand new. So it must have been shocking to the viewing public, I think, to see a painting like this in an art gallery for the first time. The New York School, as it was called, was a huge influence on young painters. But there was no place to show. There was like a handful, maybe 5 galleries that showed contemporary art in those days. So as opposed to like 500 plus now just in New York alone. So they would open their own galleries and show each other's work. And it was called the co-op scene. This is another view from the 5th. This is de Kooning studio, actually. There's some paintings leaning against the wall. Now he's, of course, iconic legend, but you can see this is a modest situation. Like his loft is not fancy. It's not going to be an architectural digest. He's got like a little kitchen there. And fast forward to my first show, which was in 1984. And this is the loft where I was living. There was a little kitchen behind that wall there. And that's me on the left, rather skinny. And I was still, actually finished school at this point, but I was still working in advertising. But I was socializing in the East Village. And there were maybe within the course of a year about, 200 or 300 galleries that opened that were showing young painters. And Keith Haring was one. He went to the same school I did at the same time. And this is a picture of him in the nightclub Palladium. And that's a huge mural he did for the dance floor. And this was another influence, actually. So there was a merging of nightlife, of art, certainly of music. That's Madonna when she was relatively unknown still, and that's the Haring mural you can see behind her there. She's dancing. And the music also was very exciting, period. The B-52s are Today it looks kind of hilarious, but actually the music was pretty good listening to it now. The Tom Tom Club, and also street art was another big influence on me. This was done by a friend, artist Richard Hamilton. He would paint these figures maybe under a street light, so you would come around the corner at night and see one of these. It was very shocking and startling, and he did these all over New York, downtown, and eventually he went to other cities throughout Europe and stuff. So I really enjoyed like having these first few group shows, and then I began to represent my own artist. This sort of East Village look, if there is such a thing, was maybe representational work for the most part, kind of garish colors. And this was painted by Robert Terry in 1984. And one show we had was called Photosynthesis, and that was incorporating artists who used painting and photography, which was a kind of a new idea then. And Warhol, of course, was the leader in that. These were photo silk screen, which he hand painted on top of. So I borrowed 4 of these from the Leo Castelli Gallery, and when I say, like, I was happy to get one, there was a whole sort of rack of them, of these dollar signs, unsold, just all along the top row of his racks. And his preparator just randomly gave me 4 paintings. We hung them in the show next to some young and largely unknown artists. And 2 days later, Warhol died. Now, these paintings were $6,500. They were like measured about 16 by 20 inches. Today, they're worth $600,000. Now, I'm not gonna make any promises, like if you buy a painting today, what's gonna happen to the price? But I'll just say I did not buy one of these paintings, so one of my very few regrets as an art dealer. Meanwhile, the gallery became successful, and I moved to Soho in the late 80s. This was Finelli's Bar, which was an artist hangout on Prince Street, where many artists, while they were waiting to get paid for their dealers, could run up a tab and drink and eat, and it was sort of one of the hubs of the Soho district. Fast forward to the 90s, I took some of my artists and worked for some more experienced dealers uptown on 57th Street. And this was one of the artists, Charlie Jarboe. I still represent this artist. This is a painting in the Seven Bridges collection by that artist, which was painted about 3 years ago. He is primarily a plein air painter, meaning he works from life, but he also works from his own photographs and sketches and things. He also will kind of develop his own skies, perhaps, from memory, or so he'll change things around at will. This was another painter. So you can see I was like getting into more, into figuration. This is a painting by Jane Wilson, who was represented by another gallery I worked at. But after about 8 or 9 years of this, I decided I wanted my own gallery again. So that's when I approached Lou Mizell, and we rented a space at 37 West 57th Street. That was 16 years ago, and we're still there. We actually opened with no artists and no money. But that didn't stop us. We showed some of my partner's artists in the beginning and some artists that I knew from the other galleries I worked at. And it worked for us. Even through 9/11, which was, I think, in our second year of business, people stopped coming to New York, actually, for a while. And, but, all kinds of obstacles we were able to overcome. And these are 4 books written by my partner about photorealism. Obviously, he's an expert in the field. And this is an early photorealist painter named Charles Bell. You'll see one in the collection if you haven't seen it already. It's in the center hall here on the first floor. A great example. And Charlie Bell, who is dead now, sadly, would photograph these pinball machines, but he would also design his own pinball machines if he was unhappy with the graphics or the lighting or whatever, and then rephotograph them and then paint from that. So it's very interesting. Photorealism is, without getting too complicated, I mean, not that it's complicated, but without getting too boring, really, is that it's artists basically making paintings from photographs of their own making, as opposed to taking a picture of a landscape or taking a picture of, or as like pop art, for example, was using images from the media that they would either blow up or alter in some way. Here's another example of an early photorealist artist. This is a painting by Ralph Goings, and you'll see his work in the collection as well. And Ralph essentially lived in a small town, and this was his world. You know, he would go in this place to have breakfast, photograph it, and go back and paint it all day. So there was not any premeditation. In other words, he didn't just start out saying, well, I'm going to just like capture Americana and still life. But he did it in spite of that. And so another question that I get asked is, how does the gallery find its artists? This is a young guy from Italy, Roberto Bernardi. This painting is in the collection. It's also in the center gallery on the first floor. And he began doing restoration in churches in Rome. And from there, he would create his own paintings using that technique, but he wanted them to be contemporary. And he was very much influenced by American photorealist painters. And this is what he came up with. It's great. This is a recent painting, very recent. This is where he lives. Just so you know, he's not a starving artist, obviously. But it took many years. He designed this house, did a lot of the work himself, the stonework. It's incredible. And this is the view. Well, I visit them as much as possible. This is the view from the bedroom, the guest bedroom. And it's the hills of Umbria. It's an incredible place. And he's married to an artist who we also represent, Raffaella Spence. And this is her sitting on top of the roof where they have like a little garden up there. And this is her at work in the studio. And when you walk in to the gallery downstairs, you'll see two great examples of her cityscapes, which she had done a whole series using helicopters and photographing cities all over the world and painting them. And they're big. I mean, these take, I don't know, forever. People ask me, how long do these paintings take? Well, I don't know if there's really an answer, like, because they always want to fix it or work on it, but basically 9 months. I think it took 1.5 years to make these two paintings. And they're big, you know, they're over 5 feet. Here's a painting of Rome. This is another painting by Spence. It's a field church, which the workers who were like cutting wheat and doing whatever farm labor would worship because town was too far away. This is a photograph of the work actually in someone's home. This is a painting of Central Park by Spence. And on the lower right is an early Bernardi fruit painting of some plums and things. And the little boat underneath that is one of the first look artists we showed this year, David Oliveira, and he was painting, kind of funny, I think, but ocean liners which sank. Very odd. Now, the gorilla is one of my favorite paintings, and that's painted by Esther Carini, who's here with us today. And the collection owns a wolf, and they also own a beautiful bear painting. This is a deer, obviously. This is a big painting as well. It's 72 inches high. And she works from her own photographs. She began by painting, I would say, farm animals, and then moved to kind of wildlife, and now she's painting endangered species, which is, I think, a very an issue that's very close to her heart. So that'll be her next show. David Eichenberg is, I want to say that he's a portrait painter is sort of doesn't really describe what he does, but you can see the detailed work. He uses those jeweler's glasses to sort of magnify the painting so he can see what he's doing. I mean, if you see one of these close up, they're just hard to believe how precise they are. He is 44 years old. He lives in Toledo. And we discovered him through the Fort Wayne Museum of Art has a show called the Realism Biennial that they do every 2 years. And they asked me to judge it. And I gave him first prize. And then I thought he was so good that we gave him a first look show. And now he's one of the gallery artists. He's a 3-time finalist for the BP Award, which is a very prestigious British painting award, and he's just an incredible painter. But he's influenced by, this is a Renaissance marriage portrait, and you can see this guy with the nose, but it's great. His casual hoodie and his hair, everything. He's a great painter. There's another one. And most of his subjects are friends, either other artists or dancers, performers, essentially bohemians. And I think it gives them a very authentic look. Here's a larger work. He's just started getting into doing some larger paintings. This is 40 inches high. I don't know if you can see the detail here, but it's insane, yeah. But on the surface, these guys, unlike those early abstract painters who were basically, they were drunks. And they would argue and fight about art. And it would meant everything in the world to have your voice heard and your theories about representational painting versus, and these artists are the exact opposite. They're nerds. And they, honestly, they barely drink and don't take drugs. I mean, they listen to music, but they're squares. They just paint all day. And it's in a way, it's a pleasure to deal with them on the one hand, but whatever. So it's about the art anyway, right? So this is, if you haven't seen this here, this is in the lower level. This is by Cheryl Kelly, who paints cars. And this was a commission by Seven Bridges, who wanted this 30 classic cars from the 1950s, American cars. And this is really a spectacular installation. So please don't miss it. It's on the lower level. Cheryl is 48 years old. She lives in Northern California in Humboldt, if anybody knows where that is. But she was awarded the Pollard-Krasner Grant, which is a very prestigious grant. She's having a solo museum show in about a year or two. And Seven Bridges has really been supportive of her work and her career. When she moved to California, she had to sell it. She sold her house, and through this commission and other projects, she was able to basically build a new house and studio in the woods in this property that she purchased. So Seven Bridges really makes an effort to, I don't know if people know this or not, but to support artists who kind of need help in this way. So very admirable. This is another painting. It's about 2 feet wide of a Corvette. And what I love about her work is the reflections, kind of telling a story about what's going on around the car. And it's not more than an illustration of a car. It's really quite incredible. This is old Cadillac, black and white. And what's also cool, not only that it's a woman painting a traditionally male subject matter, she's also painting on metal. They're on aluminum. And it gives it a sort of another, I don't know, dimension or something, just an added correlation to the car being metal or whatever. I like it. This artist also paints on metal. Peter Mayer, you'll see this cow downstairs. He was a car designer in the 60s. He's 71 years old. There he is. He's like super opinionated, but he's a he's a really good painter. I like that chicken. I mean, it's the complete opposite of his personality. Like, I don't know, it's odd, but I like this. I like this bird. It's this rooster. It's really incredibly done, and it's very good. He uses car paint actually, that was developed especially for him. And but it's not enamel, or they've taken out all the toxicity, so it doesn't smell like car paint, like when you go past a body shop or something. But it's actually the same kind of paint. And then he puts a finish on it. He says, you could wax my paintings when they're done. I don't know if that's true. I never actually tried to do that, but I don't know. You could buy one and give it a whirl, I guess. This is Adam Normandin. He was also commissioned by Seven Bridges several times. And he was able to, he loves trains, and he was able to finance the purchase of a loft across from the train yard. So when he's illegally climbing the fence to go in here to take pictures for his photographs, he's very close to home. We discovered, again, discovered is a word, we saw his work initially at an exhibition of photorealism in Toronto, in Montreal actually, and a number of our artists were in the show, so we all went up for the opening, and there was his work, which was this tiny little painting, and my partner and I both liked it, and he was there, so we started talking to him a little more, included him in a group show. We do not like to really poach artists from other galleries, but if they do leave, that leaves a gap and an opportunity for us. So he left his gallery and came with us several years ago, and it's been all uphill. This painting, please don't miss it. It's here in the building. Incredible commission of a early steam engine, if not the earliest, and it's 12 feet wide. It took a year to paint this. It's a spectacular work of art, honestly. Love this painting. This is another view of, or rather another idea he's been working with, was his trains in motion in his work, and it's great. This is an old boxcar. I just wait for Mr. Bojangles or somebody to come out of there. I just love this painting. It's big. It's 96 inches. And, you know, these paintings, here he is at work. This is how the paintings start. He does a little drawing, not too complicated, before he starts the painting. As opposed to Nathan Walsh, this is his drawing, which he works like an architect. This drawing probably took 3 months. Once he had the photograph, you know, the photograph that he likes. So his paintings each take, start to finish, about a year. So, I don't know, if you add it all up, he's like working for minimum wage, I think. This is the painting as he gets started. And he lives in York, England. And I haven't actually been to his studio, although he's been here. He gave a talk here a year or two ago, I guess. And it's very British. I like to tease him about that. Ask him where his bowler hat is, that kind of thing. But it's all ridiculous. So here is a painting also in the collection. This is looking toward, this is the tram that goes to Roosevelt Island, right? And that's the 59th Street Bridge there in the background, which is not far from where I'm from. And then here is a painting of a very unusual angle at the Eiffel Tower. This carousel is there. Not sure why they would put this near the Eiffel Tower, but I guess, I don't know, it's another thing for tourists to do, and I'm not quite sure. Here's a painting called Evening in Paris. You'll see this here in the collection. It's beautiful, 83 inches wide. well, whatever, I could talk forever on his work, but moving right along. Charles Sparney is Dutch, and he is also self-taught. That's the thing about this type of work. Like they don't teach it in school. Like you can't go to school and say, I want to study photorealist painting. It doesn't exist as a course anywhere that I am aware of. So some of the artists have gone to school and learned how to paint, but in order to paint like this, you have to figure it out yourself. The reason I like this painting, which is 70 inches wide, is because it's a hamburger, but it's iconic. It's like been raised to another level, I feel like, that most of these artists do. Like they're taking perhaps mundane objects and elevating them to iconic status by not just their technique, but the whole thing, the size, the scale. Here's some donuts. It's so simple and yet it's so memorable, you know. This is Robert Nefson. He's was reluctant to pose for us here, but there he is. And this is him. But he grew up in New York. Unlike most of the artists, they're from all over the world. He's actually from New York. Received his MFA from Boston University. He's won all kinds of awards. And he's in a lot of important collections, including this one. Times Square Self-Portrait. This is an interesting thing about Nefson's work. That's him walking there with his wife. And this is something he does in just about every single painting. If you know the artist at all, you can, won't take too long to spot him walking in these various scenes here in the back, so you can find it if you look at those paintings later. Here's another. This is a brand new painting. This is going to be in our show, which opens the first week of November. It's a historic cityscape show, and it'll include some of these artists and more. And this really only touches on a few of the painters that we represent, but I wanted to at least talk about the artists included in the collection here, because honestly, this is one of the finest collections of realist painting I've ever seen, certainly in the country, and privately held. It's just, there's nothing like it. So this is a real special opportunity for us to be working with this collection and tweaking it and helping, you know, add to it. And, you know, it's a living, working, changing collection. It's not just, it's not closed. So it's a great opportunity, and for me and for our artists. So on that, you could like turn off the lights or turn them on.